Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. You know we like to dig into stuff that you're curious about, and today is no different.
That's right.
We're talking about evading drone surveillance.
Uh-huh.
Something that I think we've all thought about a little bit.
Definitely.
Especially when you see them flying around everywhere these days.
Right.
So we got a whole bunch of stuff to dive into today. We got articles, manuals, we got some YouTube video breakdowns on this.
Sounds good.
And the thing that's really interesting is that it's not just about hiding from military drones anymore.
Right.
We're talking about drones are everywhere, and they could be watching you.
Yeah, it used to be that drones were really just a military tool, but now you're seeing them being used by everybody. I mean, for everything you can imagine, from delivering packages to, being used by police for surveillance.
Oh, yeah.
And so, as you can imagine, people are starting to get a little concerned about their privacy. And, rightfully so. I mean, we even saw some comments on a blog we were looking at from people who felt like they were being straight up harassed by drones.
Wow.
I mean, so it's definitely a real issue. It's not just something that you see in the movies. This is happening.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy to think about, actually.
It is.
I mean, I don't love the idea of somebody kind of watching me all the time.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
It's a big brother thing.
It is, yeah. So, okay, so let's talk about, how to actually avoid being seen by these things.
Sure.
First of all, I got to ask, the movie thing is it real? Can you just cover yourself with mud?
Yeah. That's a good question, and that's one of those kind of common myths that we need to bust right away.
Okay.
Mud, it can obscure your heat signature, but it doesn't last.
Right.
That heat is going to transfer through the mud, and eventually a thermal camera is going to pick you up.
Really?
So it's not quite as simple as that.
I see.
Now, there are some pretty interesting advancements in thermal imaging technology.
Yeah.
And some people are even working on, clothing that can block those thermal signals. It's basically like a Faraday cage for your body.
Interesting.
It blocks those electromagnetic signals, including the heat that your body gives off.
So you're saying I can't just go down to the the swamp and cover myself in mud and I'm good to go?
Not necessarily. No. I mean, it might work for a little bit, but
not in the long.
Okay, so that's myth number one, busted right there.
There you go.
What about this idea that I always see in movies too, where drones are just firing on anything that's warm?
Yeah.
Is that real, or is that...
That's another one of those big misconceptions.
Okay.
Drones are mainly used for observation. The military calls this overwatch.
Okay.
It's basically just keeping an eye on things. They don't just open fire on any warm body they see.
So you're saying it's not oh, there's a warm thing, let's just blow it up. No, there's actually a whole process.
I see.
Of identifying targets and, making sure that it's an actual threat before they take any action.
Okay, so they're not just trigger-happy robots out there.
Not quite, no.
Okay, that's good to know. What about if you are in a city, though?
Okay.
Can you just sort of disappear into the crowd?
Yeah, a lot of people think that cities are a good place to hide because there's so much going on.
Right.
But it's not a guarantee.
I see.
I mean, think about it. You're basically trying to break up your outline.
Right.
Visually and with your heat signature.
Okay.
And while cities do have a lot of what we call thermal clutter, that's all the different temperatures coming off buildings and vehicles and things.
Right.
A really good thermal camera can still pick out a person, especially if you're moving.
So you stand out.
Yeah, if you're moving in a way that doesn't match the rest of the environment, it's going to stick out.
Makes sense. So you can't just blend into Times Square and you're good to go.
Yeah. Not necessarily, no.
Okay. So let's get into the practical stuff then. What are some things that you can actually do?
All right.
To avoid being seen by these drones? So let's say I'm out hiking and I see one of these things overhead. What should I do?
Well, the first thing to remember is that the environment itself can be your best friend.
Okay.
Mountains, forests, even dense urban areas, they can all provide cover and disrupt those thermal readings.
Right.
Think about how soldiers use camouflage. They're trying to blend in with the terrain.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do too.
Gotcha. Okay, what if there aren't any forests around?
Well, there are a few other tricks you can use to confuse those drone sensors.
Okay.
Mirrors and broken glass, for example, can really scatter the light. That makes it hard for the cameras to get a clear picture.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like creating your own little light show to disorient the drone.
So I'm like a walking disco ball.
Exactly.
I love it.
And remember that specialized clothing we talked about? That can help too.
Oh yeah, the Faraday cage clothes.
It's becoming more and more common, and it can really minimize your heat signature.
Okay, so we've got cover, we've got our disco ball, we've got our fancy clothes. What else?
Don't forget about your digital footprint. That's a big one.
What do you mean?
Turn off your phone's GPS. Ideally, turn off the whole phone.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? How could my phone give me away if I'm out in the woods?
Well, multiple phones clustered together, it creates a signal pattern that's really easy to detect.
Even if you're hidden?
Even if you're hidden. It's like sending up a signal flare saying, hey, we're right here.
So no group selfies while I'm trying to stay hidden.
Exactly. In this digital age, our phones can be our biggest vulnerability.
Wow, this is really making me think. It's cool, but kind of scary too.
I know what you mean.
It brings up a lot of questions about, ethics and stuff too. Like, is it even right for people to be watched like this, especially without knowing about it?
You've hit on a big point there. Drones do a lot of good, like with search and rescue, but there's definitely potential for them to be misused.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like this whole drone thing is really blurring the lines between privacy and, being monitored.
It is. It's a big conversation that we need to be having as a society.
For sure.
Yeah.
But okay, let's take a breather for a second and just think about everything we've learned so far. This is a lot to process.
It is. We'll get into some more of that later, though.
Yeah. This is definitely some thought-provoking stuff.
Yeah, it really is a brave new world, isn't it?
It is.
But technology's always kind of like that, right?
Right.
It just keeps advancing whether or not we're ready for it.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of advancements, though, we got to talk about the future of all this.
Okay.
Drone warfare and countermeasures.
Okay.
It's not just mud and mirrors anymore.
Oh, really?
Things are getting pretty high-tech.
Okay. Lay it on me. What are we talking?
Well, some of it sounds like straight out of a movie.
Okay.
High-energy lasers. They can disable drones mid-flight.
Like, really?
Yeah, these systems, they're so precise, they can target, like, specific parts of the drone.
Oh, wow.
The sensors or the communication systems without causing, like, widespread damage.
So it's like, you're not blowing the drone up.
Right.
You're just taking it offline.
Exactly.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, what else?
Another cool development is net guns.
Net guns.
Yeah, pretty much what it sounds like.
Okay.
They shoot out a net and it captures the drone and brings it down.
Uh-huh.
It's more elegant, I guess, than
Yeah.
lasers.
Right.
And it doesn't cause collateral damage.
And no explosions?
Exactly. And then, of course, there's EMPs.
Yeah,
Those are electromagnetic pulses.
Okay.
Those are a little more destructive.
Uh-huh.
But they can fry a drone's electronics with a burst of energy.
So it's just like done.
Yeah, basically disables it instantly.
Wow. Okay, so lasers, nets, EMPs. We're covering all the bases here.
We're trying...
Who's building all this stuff, though? Is it just military?
It's a mix, actually.
Okay.
You got companies like Raytheon building the laser systems.
Uh-huh.
And then Swiss Aerobotics working on the net guns.
Oh, wow.
Epirus is doing some crazy things with EMP tech.
So this is like a whole industry's popping up.
Yeah, definitely a growing field.
Huh. It's amazing how fast this stuff is all moving.
It really is.
It makes me wonder, though, are these countermeasures, are they keeping up with drone technology? Or are they ahead?
That's a good question.
I mean, it seems like it's almost like an arms race,
It is.
One side's trying to outdo the other.
It's true, but technology is only part of it.
Right.
We got to be thinking about, the ethical and strategic implications, too.
Right. If everybody's got access to this tech,
Exactly.
things could get messy.
Absolutely.
So let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
How is the military adapting to all of this?
Well, we're seeing a huge change
Okay.
in how they think and train.
Uh-huh.
It's not just about traditional combat anymore.
Gotcha.
Soldiers now have to operate in environments where drones are both a threat and a tool.
So it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For instance, basic training now includes counter-drone drills.
Really?
Yeah, they're teaching every recruit the basics of drone awareness
Wow.
and defense.
So this is like standard stuff.
It's becoming that way, yeah. And then you have the specialized units that are focusing on more advanced counter-drone tactics.
Oh, okay.
They're developing and using all the high-tech gadgets we were talking about.
So it's like a whole new breed of soldier.
Yeah, the drone warrior.
Right.
But this goes way beyond just, boots on the ground.
Right.
Drones are changing the entire landscape of warfare.
So what does that mean for the future of war? I mean, are we going to have like robots fighting robots?
A lot of people are asking that.
Yeah.
And it's a tough question.
Yeah.
But one thing that's getting a lot of attention is the idea of drone swarms.
Drone swarms. Okay, hold on. Now we're getting into like sci-fi territory here.
Oh, right.
What is a drone swarm?
Well, imagine hundreds,
Okay.
even thousands of tiny autonomous drones all working together to overwhelm enemy defenses or to carry out attacks.
Oh, wow.
It's a scary thought.
It is.
But it's something we got to consider as the tech keeps getting better.
This is mind-blowing.
It is.
I mean, it makes you realize this whole drone conversation is way bigger than just learning how to hide from them.
It is.
It's about understanding, their impact on everything.
Exactly.
Warfare, privacy, society.
We're talking about a huge shift in how we think about conflict, security, even power itself.
It's a lot to think about.
It really is.
But that's what we do here on the Deep Dive.
Right.
We dive deep, explore these complex topics.
Absolutely.
Challenge our assumptions and try to be ready for whatever's coming next.
That's the goal.
And speaking of what's coming next, let's take a minute to think about everything we've covered so far.
Yeah.
Before we dive into what all this means for you, the listener.
Good idea.
And how you can navigate this wild world of drones. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been talking all about evading drone surveillance.
We have.
And man, we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
I mean, from like basic camouflage to lasers and drone swarms.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's pretty wild. It's not just like a spy movie thing anymore. This is real life stuff.
It is. It's getting more and more real every day.
Yeah. And it can feel a little overwhelming.
Right. It can, but, awareness is key. The more you know about how drones work and what they can do, the better prepared you'll be.
Okay, so let's talk practical steps.
Okay.
What can people do to, protect their privacy in this new drone world we live in?
Well, one of the simplest things is just being aware of your surroundings.
Okay.
Are there drones around? What kind are they? Just knowing what to look for can help you anticipate potential surveillance.
Right. Okay. But let's say you're in a situation and you think a drone might be watching you.
Okay.
What can you do?
Well, we talked about some tactical approaches already, like using natural cover, creating distractions, minimizing your digital footprint. But it's also about knowing the rules.
The rules? You mean like laws?
Yeah, like laws about where drones can fly and what kind of surveillance they're allowed to do.
Oh, that's a good point.
Those laws are different everywhere.
Right.
So do some research, know your rights.
So knowledge is power. Got it. But beyond that, what can people do to advocate for their privacy?
Well, that's where things get really interesting because it's not just about individual action anymore. It's about collective action.
Okay.
Talk to people about drone use, support organizations that are fighting for privacy rights, even contact your elected officials.
So make your voice heard.
Exactly. Be part of the conversation, help shape the future of this technology.
Because it's not just about hiding from drones. It's about creating the world we want to live in.
That's it.
Where tech is used responsibly and ethically. So final question. So we've talked about all these advancements.
Yeah.
What do you see as the biggest challenge or opportunity when it comes to the future of drones?
That's a big one. For me, it's all about finding the right balance.
Balance.
Yeah, drones have so much potential for good, search and rescue, environmental monitoring, even delivering stuff.
Right.
But they can be misused too.
Right.
It's on us as a society to have those tough conversations, set guidelines, make sure this tech is used to benefit humanity.
Well said. Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Already.
I know. It goes fast.
It does.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. I hope everyone listening learned a lot about drone technology and countermeasures.
Me too.
But also, feeling a little bit empowered.
Yes.
Like you can be part of this conversation about the future.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.